that's little Johnny. Johnny, he just in his feelings. No, because little Johnny gonna do that. If he's doing it with you, he's gonna do it to somebody else and get his
Exactly.
put in jail, or he's gonna be put not in jail, or he's gonna be in the grave somewhere because
And
he did
that's
the
and
wrong.
that's what and I hate to say it like but in the back of my head I was like, see, this is what happened. You want to be little Johnny's friend, and then all of a sudden he gets in some situation and locked up, and now you want to take the words that we said way ahead of time serious after the fact. I mean, we should use common sense. The main thing that we should be doing is prevention and kind of providing guidance and education so we can make the right choice of direction. We can't make the choice for the child, but there needs to be some kind of structure. But we have gone into this sensitive cancel culture where we don't want to apply that kind of structure because we think it's too sensitive and too hard. But then you see results like this, and then it's costing parents money. I mean, they're already struggling, and now they got to pay for their consequences. Nobody got time to be throwing away money for that. I mean, why don't you do the things in advance to prevent those things or put your child in the right position instead of wasting more money? Or better yet, let me just say it, not the political correct way, throwing money to them because it's
I,
not going back into our neighborhoods.
well, I agree with that because you know during my time in service, and I was over in Japan. I love their concept. They made everything about family, but they also made sure the kids understood the importance of family and family name. So when you mess up, you have you have just screwed the family over in regards to their name, their reputation, and the ancestors. We don't
Right.
do that here. And another thing that I noticed over there that I like is that if you get in trouble, say with the law, right? What happened is it's your family responsibility to make sure you eat each day, not the state, not the country,
Ooh.
but it is your family's responsibility because they did what they did and they embarrassed you, the family, basically the name and the ancestors.
You know, a lot of people are not going to be ready for that because when hold those parents accountable for their actions or not pretty much giving their kid direction, that's going to cause a whole uproar.
And and, and I think that needs to be. I
It
think it
needs to
really
happen.
does
It
because
needs to
a lot of these
happen.
parents don't even accept accountability for their own actions.
Nope.
And they like to place blame on other individuals and not turn around and see who and what they're
Because
doing or the influence they're putting on their child.
it's the cheap way out. I mean, because it's hard. And like we in a society where everybody or more people want the easy way out of things. They don't want to actually go through the challenges, which is how you learn. Like, you know, it kind of goes back into like a really good school program. You're gonna face difficulties and things like that, but you don't quit. You challenge yourself. You try and try and try again until you get it right. Same thing with providing guidance to a kid. There's no formula for raising no kid, but you gotta provide some kind of structure so they can be guided in the right direction.
Right.
But
And
being this kid's friend is allowing them to do what they want to do, and then don't want to take accountability and blame everybody else. It's not fixing anything.
well, my thing to you is have you ever been in a particular situation? I know it's putting you on the spot, and I'm
Mhm.
not trying to put you on the spot, but you and I have talked, and we're not saying any names or anything like that. But for those that's listening and watching, can you provide the reason why you feel the way you do in regards to this matter of being a child's a parent friend to the you know what I'm saying?
I can definitely believe I relate to it because I was in a position of a of stepfather, and I know I'm going to face look quick, but you went to real dad. But let me go in further details so I can help you understand where I'm coming from. So when you have a child, you have to have some kind of direction and kind of guidance. If you allow that child to do anything that they want to do, they will eventually they're smart. The kids are smart enough to put the parents against themselves, cause destruction in the household,
It's true.
and then you're going to lose control of that. And then once that happens, you don't have no structure in the household because everything starts at home. Because now you allow that child to do whatever you want. You cater to not pushing them to be better. You're basically awarding them for laziness or not doing what they needed to do to be successful. And then that same thing into the classroom. You have parents that are complaining. See, here comes the blame thing. The parents will blame the teachers for not them taking responsibility for their actions because the child is failing, when it's just a result of what you've done at home. And I was in that situation when I was trying to provide that kind of guidance in there. There's a lot of friction, and when that stuff doesn't happen, it causes chaos. The child performance is degraded. They lose second confidence. They are pretty much repeating, putting blame on everything else. They're going to get numerous phone calls. You want to pretty much use more of your time trying to correct something that should have been addressed at the house. And I see the parents want to blame the teachers and now want the teachers to play parent. Teachers play a lot of have a lot of hats, but it shouldn't be like this. Everything needs to start at home. And parents need to take accountability for that instead of just running away from responsibility. Like if you look at HISD or like pretty much just nationwide when it comes to education, I can tell you the root of the problem is parents don't want to take responsibility for their actions. They don't want to put no structure. They want to. I understand, the knowledge of becoming more aware of people's emotions, but there has to be structure. You can't pretty much baby them into everything. I understand, like in different age groups, okay, I get it. But the older they get, there should be a progressive level where the kid needs to take responsibility for their actions. Life is not going to care about their emotions all the time. Sometimes you have to make the right decision, despite what you like or feel in your head. Because life, when you get in the real world, is not going to care about how your emotions feel. We need to be doing that progressional training phase so that a child can reach their success. And I have seen numerous of times from being that experience of a stepfather, and then on top of that, as an educator, seeing kids repeat that same cycle because the parents don't want to take responsibility. I can't tell you how many emails I have to send, and then on top of that, you see how the parent acts, and then you're like, now I see how this child is acting because it started at home. And I hate to say it like that.
Well, Chris, is it because these parents don't think their little child
It's
is
perfectly
bad,
innocent, and
is
that is,
responsible?
and
And,
that goes back to what I was saying. They need to take responsibility for their actions. Your little Brittany, Johnny, or whoever is not completely perfect. I understand being a parent. You want them
and
to
Ray
be
Ray
successful and all that and much more. I
and
get that.
Denisha and all them Nisha.
But I get that you want your child to be the best. What child? I mean, what parent doesn't want their child to be the best on diamond? But if you want your child to be set up
Now
for
these just
success,
black children.
take them to
I know these just little black
the surprisingly no. I mean, as a person into the school system, it's not just blacks. I will say that straight up. I've seen
children.
white,
Man, you know black children or something else.
but it's not just. Of course, I know our culture,
Yeah, I've seen a lot. It's
but it's
been
not just
more
us.
white children
It's not just us.
that are acting in such a manner because
Ray Ray is bad.
yeah,
Listen, Ray Ray.
We get that.
Ray Ray might be bad, and yes, the parents still might want to be a friend. But
Mhm.
I've seen that still when that mother depends upon the mother get tired and they give them that look, they kind of throttle back a little bit, but they still doing some bad things. But I've seen more of the white kids slapping, hitting, kicking, spitting, and cussing out their parents, and then their parents still want to treat
And
them and reward them for bad
That's
behavior.
the
and
dominant culture. That's
I,
the dominant culture.
I have no. I this is kind of, but I want to throw something out there which I know is going to sting.
Look,
And
listen.
I
Subscribe and
can't forget this.
let me show you something.
Let me
Let me show
no,
you
no, hold on,
something.
because I can't forget to
This
stop.
is the culture. This is
Mother,
the
but
culture.
no, I'm gonna let you
This
have your
is the
chance. But
culture.
mothers have to take
This
responsibility
is
for
the
their action
culture. You
because
see this kind of
what I'm trying to
culture?
say real quick
That
is
nigga
I've seen a
bouncing
lot of
around.
times where the mother has pretty much overruled the father, and then it's no such direction because they were going back into emotions. I've seen that happen a lot of times. We're in a time of age where we allow, and of course, I want both parents to work together, but I'm seeing more and more of a trend where it's like if the mother doesn't like something, whatever the father says gets overruled, and then we lead more into this chaotic trending
Cycle.
to emotions,
Yeah,
and that doesn't help the child. There has to be a balance.
yeah. I agree because when the child sees that, the child sees that's his weakness, and they use that to go between the mother and the father.
And put the parents against themselves.
Exactly, and it's no more than a psychological game if the parents are not on the same page. But at the same time, you can't have a father treating their kids
I agree with that
as a
too.
friend, spoiling them, and then when they become an adult or a teenager, they
They're
not
expecting that.
they not worth 2 wood nickels.
They said what, Nichols?
I'm just being real. They're not worth 2 nickels, you know. And this is what people are fail and not realizing, because think about how many kids that have actually committed and killed people in school, and then the parents
A lot.
back
I'm gonna
say
try to look this up in
and say,
2023.
"Oh, he was a good kid." If he was a good kid, then he wouldn't have that issue. Then that child would have been able to come to you.
I'm
But
about to pull it up. I'm trying to look.
because you made it a friend, he or she couldn't come to you as my parent. Hey, look, I need help. Because the mindset is different, because they're still not mature, because the brain does not, mature until the age, and it's in all the science books, until the age about 27, 28.
Yeah.
So anything that's less than the age of 27, 28 years old, the individual is immature. The mind has not completely developed.
Well, the kids leaving the home at 5 years old nowadays.
Yeah.
That, and then it goes back to like not responsible parents. Like, I mean, when you in educate, you see a lot of things. You have a lot of economic issues. You have the parents that don't want to stay at home and be a parent. They're out here clubbing, being at the bars. The kids have to pretty much raise themselves. They have to raise their own siblings by themselves. They're pretty much forced to grow up at a very quick rate. Unfortunately, I mean, I commend them. They got to do what they need to do. But you have all these different kind of adversities and trauma that a child has to face at an early age that pretty much leads into that, because parents don't want to take accountability for their actions. Again, it goes back to that. Parents need to stop blaming the educators all the time. Yes, there's some bad educators, but the parents need to take responsibility for their actions as well.
So what do? Do you tell the parents, which they don't care to hear it? Do you tell the child, which they're not listening? Do you tell the principal, who want to check? Do you tell the council, who wants to create more avenue just to keep the system rolling in a broken facility? How do you tell the parent not to be the friend of your child, and let your child understand, hey, I'm the mother, you're the child, and this is it. This is the way it's going to be. It may sound kind of awkward from a strong, dominant standpoint, but our children, and I'm glad mine are grown and gone, but these children nowadays, they run the parents. They tell them when to come home.
I was just talking about.
They tell them when to rise, and the parents will say, "Oh, I'm going to sign up. I'm going to sit up," and we listen. And so we can't correct what's been correcting us.
Mm-hmm.
You let that happen.
I think what it's going to take him, it's just one of those things, like over time, it's going to be slow progression, but I think it goes outside just the school system. There has to be some kind of program established that reaches out to the community in the area. And then hopefully over time, something pretty much picks up, but it starts with the community itself, because the schools can only do so much, but it takes the actual community itself to do something, start a program. And you may not be able to impact immediately thousands of parents, but if you start the trend and putting that information out, you will start slowly but surely impacting and start changing things around. And honestly, I don't really see too many. I have met a couple of great, women and fathers who work collectively, kind of start their own little things. We need to see more of that, because it's going to take more of us and overall as a people to kind of shift this dynamic of what society is doing now. Because honestly, it's not only what the kids are doing. I mean, not only just what's happening in their area, but then you have additionally programming of what you see in, media, music, movies, and people see this as trendy things. So that's another influence that you're fighting as well. So we got to be strong in the community, household, whatever religious institutes that you follow. And then on top of that, you have to kind of monitor and then kind of be aware of how your kids listen, because your kids watching to all the time, what they're doing to all the time. Because let's not lie, we all been in school. We all were influenced by some kind of music or things like that. I mean, it's going to happen.
But what you were saying is what whoever listening or watching may not putting the pieces together. So let me put it this way: from 2021 to 2022, and we're going to look at Houston Independent School District. Okay,
Mhm.
your child is worth $3,602 and during that time frame if they went to elementary school. In middle school, your child is worth $3,638. Okay,
Joshua, it
and,
sounds like slavery, typical slavery.
and
They used to
basically,
sell Negroes,
Mhm.
okay? And people need to understand, especially you black people. I'm gonna keep it raw and uncut. Now, in the trenches has become some conservative Christian talk show. Sound like to me, but
no,
at the end of the
No,
day,
I mean,
if you vote right, you got to understand. Greg Abbott here in Texas has got the bill out there. It's supposed to be on the table here. I don't know if they voted on it or not. Where it give you parents some vouchers where you can take your kids out of Dumb ISD. Okay, Dumb ISD is a dangerous district here in. I don't live in Houston, but in the Houston area. And you need to apply and get these vouchers and get your children out of Dumb ISD. Because Dumb ISD have a bunch of crooked black people that's the board members. I'm going to tell you straight.
well, the reason why I brought up the dollar amount, right? I brought the dollar amount to prove and to point out what you and what Chris is saying and what I'm thinking at the same time is the fact that the
I'm
school
driving. I apologize. But go ahead.
the school district is looking at your child as getting paid, making money off your child. So
They've
therefore,
always said that.
right,
From free lunch to uniforms.
right. So they
Mhm.
looking at your child as making money, and so the responsibility cannot be on the teacher, but the parent needs to step up and have the responsibility, like Chris is saying, and stop sitting on your ass and wanting to point the finger on somebody else, and not just point the finger, but be what the child needs: guidance, a
Mhm.
parent that loves, gives them structure, all of those things. So then that way, excuse me, they can be a productive to society and not sitting on the sidelines, because this is the reason why that the United States military is so damn weak right now. This is the reason why you have people in the military that's whining and complaining about they are restricted of being on social media because they can't say what they want to say. When you sign a contract, it states that some of your rights will not be given because you're no longer a regular citizen. You are property of the government. So this is why I brought that up, so people can understand there is a damn difference when a parent doesn't step up. And you have too many people in the military, and I'm speaking about because I've been in, my family and all been in, is the fact that some of them are getting kicked out on dishonorable discharge because you got these sorry parents that are not teaching and not putting guidance in these kids' life. And all they want to do is sit and play video games, and that's the only muscle of exercise they get is their fingers.
You want to know why? Because we're in a society that wants to avoid conflict. I mean, we have praised avoiding conflict or running away for so much that it has become like the normal and what is accepted. I mean, if you see a parent, let's say a parent does what we're saying, does that tough love to provide structure, organization, and guidance to push their student or their child to the best of their capabilities to be successful. Now you have opposite views, be like, oh, don't be pushing that child too hard. Oh, why are you being so mean? You need to allow that child to express themselves and all this other different things. And it pretty much destroys, like it's just chopping piece by piece of what the good parent is actually trying to do, provide actual guidance and actual structure so that child can be successful. I mean,
And
we are in some chaotic times nowadays.
And I can understand that in regards to let the child express, but you teach the child how to properly express
That's what I mean. Yes.
themselves. Because and you know, and I put my business down the street. The way my grandbaby is, and the way my daughter has taught and trained her in such a manner, she has more intelligence. She has more awareness than other kids that are 3 years old. But that's because she spent the quality time, the effort to be able to teach her, to show her, because she learned from mistakes that was made, that all parents make. I made mistakes, so she learned from
No
that.
parents. Perfect.
So therefore, now she's teaching her something different to make it better, and she is now is able to think on a intellectual level at 3 years old when she's able to do critical thinking at an
And
early age.
and let me say this is kind of add on to your point where we're saying like, okay, we can allow your child to communicate, yes, but we mean to actually have a good conversation. We don't want your child to be like, I don't want to listen to you. Why should I look like you ain't my dad? And all this like you ain't. I actually know more than you. The whole attitude and the kind. We don't want like if I did that. If I did that nonsense, I was gonna get smacked like straight up. And now we're in the age where that's acceptable. And then when it's in a public display, now you want to get mad and upset because you're getting embarrassed. Because you're getting embarrassed because you ain't handling what you got supposed to be doing at home. Because now
Exactly.
he's pretty much put on the forefront.
And then that's when the parents try to label a false label on their kids and get doctors, psychiatrists, or social workers to label and say
Oh,
major depression, anxiety. No, that's not major depression. That's not anxiety. It's just the fact that they didn't want to hear and get what they want that they got accustomed to because you were too busy wanting to be their friend and not teach them that the world is not like that. The world cares nothing about you. And when that happens, there's either two places in this world: jail or you're dead
dead.
in the grave. But
And
parents don't teach that.
you know, I and like I said, like I never will forget. Like I said those exact things, and I meant that I was tough love. And in the situation that I was in, can you believe I got basically hit back for that because I was saying like if we don't do this, this child is going to be destined for this direction because you're so afraid and you're so tend to her emotions, and then because you keep doing this, you're complaining because you don't want to provide no structure. That's what blows my mind. You see what's going on in the household and you see what's going on in schools or what's happening outside of school. And then let's say you have someone who wants to go ahead and try to provide a little guidance, kind of redirect, and then you get mad at them, but you want to keep living this constant fake fantasy that your child is completely perfect, and then you're still at the end of the day crying because you don't know, oh, I don't know what's going on. If you want, it kind of reminds me to that old thing I know I probably said in one of your previous podcasts. If you do keep doing the same thing over and over again, and you're
It's
expecting
insanity.
different, it's insanity. Straight up, let's not sugarcoat it. You're doing the same thing over and over. You're hoping it's for a change.
It's just I'll give you an example of the insanity that parents do, but in a different context. If I go out there and I make a mistake, and I've told my kids this, I understand you're gonna make mistakes, but if you keep making the mistakes I made and the mistakes that I made from my parents, and my parents made the same mistakes there, and there's no change, then you're a fool. Simply because you're supposed to learn from my mistakes so you can be better. Your child is
Further,
supposed to learn your mistakes so they can be better than you. I've always expressed to them, your goal is to always do and be better than me.
mhm.
Always.
That's any
But
parents
parents
go.
don't
You
teach that,
always want to
but they
progress.
want to be the friends and they're not teaching them that. And so now you have the kids disrespecting the parents. You have the kids don't want to do better, but rather than doing better, they're doing worse than what the parents are.
You know what? I have another great example. Well, people gonna hate it, but it actually pretty much tends into what we're saying. Everybody knows basically the boxer Floyd Mayweather, right?
Right.
Undefeated.
Oh, with his daughter situation.
No. Well, no. I'm talking about how his dad, this particular, was pretty much strict on him and his lessons when it comes to a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
If his father was soft, I put like this. Let me set this up correctly. In the boxing ring, let's say in the boxing ring is life. When you
Right.
go in there, it don't care. You make mistakes, you are going to take some hits. You're gonna get knocked out. You're gonna get embarrassed.
And you got to keep punching.
You got to keep doing what you're supposed to do. His father realized that it was when it came to pretty much the lessons in that ring, he was strict on them because he knew that if he was soft on him in training camp or in that, and when they were sparring all that, when they get in that ring, his opponent's not gonna care. So when you provide great guidance to your child to be great at something, I'm just using this as a metaphor. It's going to, they may not like it, but you're setting them up for success. And when you could pretty much follow that and keep pushing that, then eventually they have success because they're following the direction and guidance that you have set before them. Because if he was soft on Floyd Mayweather, you wouldn't even know about his name. And that goes for any kind of great, not just athletics. I guarantee you, from any speaker or pretty much leader, from Martin Luther King and much more, I promise you and I guarantee you, they all had someone who was pushing them to greatness. They weren't being soft to them as a friend. Yeah, even look at the Sabrina and Venus Williams. I mean, you see how hardcore their dad wasn't to them girls,
and look how wealthy is. But
and they got great success, success.
And that's the difference in between being a parent friend trap or just being the parent. You be the child's friend when they become an adult, when they become a mature age where they understand, and when they can say, "Mama, Daddy, thank y'all. I may not have liked it, but I see what you're talking about." That's a mature child that comes back and can say that, and with all sincerity and honesty, to be able to do that. But at the same time, these parents are not doing it. So now we have a crumbling country. We have a crumbling military. We do not have good leaders because the ones that could or can aren't mentally there because they're not.
Or they're getting canceled.
Yeah, they get canceled, or they into their feelings because they don't know how to socialize. Or their mother, and I blame most of this on the mother. They blame the mother.
Yeah.
The mother's always pacifying and babyfying these kids for the most part. Now, I'm not saying there's not any fathers that do the same thing, but the percentage of mothers doing it is a lot higher than it is for a father to do that. And so one of the watchers brought up a good point. If a child something
Can you
about
put it up if you don't mind? Because I think the viewers need to see this as well.
If your child says something about you, about yourself, and you don't like it, as long as it's valid, that's the part. If it's valid, it's something you need to change to better them or yourself. And see, that is a good point, because with my kids, I call it reality check.
Mm-hmm.
And that included the fact of I have both of my daughters, I have my wife, and we're all sitting down. And as we sitting down, I'm telling them, I'm the first one in the hot seat. Tell me what is it that I'm doing that you don't like, but make sure it's valid. Yes, it's going to hurt my feelings. Yes, might get upset, but I need to hear it so I know what I need to work on to make myself better. And that's the example that a lot of these parents don't do. And that is the reason why with, one of my daughters,
can I swing it in another way in case I'm not getting your perspective? Your kids are a reflection of who you are.
Exactly.
Let me say it again. Your kids are a reflection of who you are.
Exactly.
And how your child reacts and acts is basically a full reality of who you are. We may not like it, trust me and believe it, but it is like you were saying earlier, a huge wake-up call. Yeah. Because whatever you're doing in the household, whatever you're saying, kids are like sponges. Kids are sponges. They notice everything. Trust and believe me, they will catch, even when you think they're not catching it, they're catching it. So that's a lot of times when you see kids going out and, you may hear like, man, you acting just like your mom. Oh, you acting just like your dad. That's why. Because they are soaking in everything, every little action and things that you say. And they're pretty much
what they see. And that's why it's important. I'm glad, the individual posted that, because it's really important. And the example that the same individual used was the problem is when you have your partners that are separated, or if it's an ex-partner, right? Mm-hmm. One is given a structure, and then another is trying to be the fun parent. which
Oh,
is
that's I can't even imagine that. I mean, I haven't
so.
been in that situation, but I can see how that can be a problem because you can
So if
do.
that's the case, the child is confused. The
Mhm.
child has no guidance because the child is confused. But the child is going to always naturally go to the bad side, not the good side, because it takes more effort to be good than it does to do bad.
And
That's
what you
what
mean
I'm saying.
when you say bad, and I just want to make sure I understand the audience to say,
Bad is
you,
getting into trouble, not listening, cussing, acting a fool in
but
public, talking back. All of
are you
those.
also talking about? Are you also talking about the fun parent too? I want to make sure, like,
The fun parent is teaching the child how to be that way.
okay, I want to make sure you hit on that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the that's what's going on. The parent is teaching the child how to be disrespectful, how to not care, how to not have pride in what you do for as your work. I didn't talking about pride being cocky and arrogant, but be
Mm.
prideful of what and how you do, of doing a good job, be feeling good about yourself, knowing who and what you are. That's why these kids don't know who and what they are, because the parents don't know who and what they are, because they too busy want to afraid of getting old. In some cases, not all. Some parents are want to stay at a age of the same as their kids, and when that happens, guess what? That's when that parent-child friend kicks in, because the
Yep,
parent don't want to grow up and accept the fact that they ass is about as old as dirt or old as Moses.
that's just Moses. That is the truth. Oh, and we parents need to actually go beyond emotion. I'm kind of reading this, but also thinking at the same time, because as just being this child friend is just causing nothing but chaos. Where I really want to know where all this crap started from. Where we lean more on our emotions instead of actual logic in our actual structure that have actually pushed us to success. Because that is one thing I want to really find out, is that among itself. And then I know I'm picking it back on what you said earlier, and because of this, you having more kids doing suicides. They're pretty much running through the schools, shooting up in schools, like they're fighting teachers. I mean, here's what. Speaking of that, and I'm going back to the schools. You have kids nowadays that will actually fight you, the parent, or actually assault an educator because they get their phone took off, and then they pull off a whole child tantrum.
And I've seen that on a
And
lot
I'm
of
like, you
and
can't teach your child to, and I what this is so much. So then you have a parents that would be like, well, you need to allow my child to have the freedom to express on their phones. It's bigger than that, idiot. Yeah, I said it like that because what we're trying to do is get your child to focus so he or she can be successful. Oh, just be focused during class time, get your work done, and if you want to have fun afterwards, cool.
because
But
you know
go
why,
ahead, go ahead and shoot it, man.
especially in the black community. What is the one thing that they always do within the black community? They want to label every black child as much as they can as ADHD, so that
that
the
is the
pharmaceutical
that is the worst fucking thing. I wish I never did
because
that
the
because
pharmaceutical company makes money off black kids being labeled ADHD, and 9 times out of 10 is not ADHD. It's just fact that they just probably
and let
never
me put
want,
this out,
never focused, never tried to be focused, or the
and their
parent
parents and their
didn't
parents
teach them how to be focused. It can be any of those three. To be
and,
honest with
and and the parents are aiding on to that. Like I've definitely been in that damn situation. It was not. I fucking hated it because it's now you pretty much are teaching a child to use this as a crutch. So
you.
anytime there is no good performance into the school, oh, it's ADHD. Oh, just because the child is unable to focus, anything like that, it's ADHD. Or because they get into trouble, it's because of that. But I find here's the interesting thing. So when it comes to important things like education or doing things that for their success, the child quickly does that, and we blame ADHD. But what
Mhm.
I find so interesting and funny about this, and the damn parents that want to call this card, is when that child wants to do something that they want, let's say play on a tablet, video games, and all that much sure.
The
Plus,
AD,
you know,
all that stuff goes out.
the ADHD is nowhere to be sight. So what I'm trying to say, dumbass, is this: your child is smart, and then using that damn shit as a pretty much a crutch,
And
and
you're allowing the system to
and
distract your child.
that, and
with
you allowing the
medication.
child to manipulate you, the parent, and you falling for the same okie doke every time. Every time. So your child can do all this other stuff, no issue. Stay focused with that. But when it comes to doing something to actually progress them, oh, they can't focus. Oh, there's issues. Oh, I want to fight the teacher and educator and all that. Same thing. Look, and I'll go ahead and put this on the play. Same thing with our athletes, boys or girls. They can't wait to play the sport, football, basketball, tennis, whatever like that. But when it comes to, because you are first a student before the athlete, and we have too many times these students quick to play that sport and all that much more. But when it comes to things you really need to focus on, it's ADHD. But you don't want to put ADHD when they perform on the field, on that court. They over here like knocking down 20 or 30 points, sweeping the tournament and all that. They're focused during that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I put it like this. What's going to be in the chat and in the description is a link. And the link is a book that everyone should read. It's called Saving Normal by Alan Francis, MD. And who is Alan Francis? Alan Francis was one of those that created what they call a DSM-4 book. And the DSM-4 book is what the psychologists use to determine a diagnosis. In his book, he specifically states there is no such thing as a mental disorder. It's only an observation. Now, this man wrote this book because he created the DSM-4 book. He says this in his book. It's only an observation. That's it. And it's the pharmaceutical company that has pushed the narrative to these doctors.
Of course they would. It's money involved. They're about to make a fortune.
Every conference that they have, right? What they do is the conferences are paid for by the pharmaceutical company. So if the pharmaceutical company is paying for the conference and promoting their products, this is the reason why. And a lot of people don't understand it. And so therefore, in the description and in the chat, there's a link, a PDF version. And he specifically states and explains, in other words, in my term, all of this is bullshit.
Ooh, we pissing people off. Oh well.
But this is the game. But even though it's the game, you got to understand the game.
Pretty much.
So, but how do you think this situation should change? How can parents who may be listening or watching want to go from being a parent friend to being a parent? Because you've been in that boat. My kids have never been in that boat. But now because they're older and they're becoming more wiser, they're becoming to see the things that I've said that they couldn't see then, but they see now, as I've always told them. You're not going to see everything now what Dad is talking about.
Of course.
But you're going to see it down the road. And when you do, you're going to be like, okay, now I got it. But now because they see it, now we can have a more closer relationship because now they can see Daddy wasn't crazy. Daddy knew what he was talking about. And now I understand. So now I can communicate a little bit better with Daddy. So now I know what he's talking about. He's not giving me a bunch of wolf cookies.
My response to that, and I know you said a solution to this, and then I hate saying this, but I know it's the truth. Number one, let me start off like this. You can't control another person's action. And I keep telling myself, because this is great information that we're providing and all that in our own experience and much more. But I keep reminding myself, you can't control another person's action.
That's true.
With that said, what we can do is, keep doing podcasts. We need more organization programs and out there to provide the information and just make it more aware. I think that is one of the things we can do because that is our one of the elements we do have control of. Putting the information out there, putting awareness out there, putting more activities out there, doing anything of that nature is something that's under our control that can actually attribute to the changes.
Right.
And I think that's what needs to be done. And is it going to be an overnight switch or a change? It's not. But me being realistic and honest to myself, that is like the more realistic action I think that we can actually do right now. Is keep providing information, do activities, get more people involved, and just tell them, keep putting more action into that. And then slowly for surely more people will change on their own. Because we can't just, I'm going to use like grab some kind of controller and say, hey, I need you to move this way. And so you can change the life. Everybody got free will and can maneuver on their own. But with the control element we can do is provide the information, education, activities, organization, get the community involved so that those changes can happen naturally and over time. Is it a slow process? Hell yeah, it is. It sucks. But being realistic, I think that is one of the options we do have. Of course, it's going to be more, but that's just at the top of my head.
Well, before we close out, we're going to go to a commercial break. And then when we come back, I want you to give a final word, but also, too, I want to be able to let folks know that we will be having a spinoff of In the Trenches, and it's going to be Generation Z. And I'm telling you, it's going to be some hot topics, some hot issues. So if you're a Generation Z and you trying to figure out, why your generation is acting a certain way because your level of thinking is different or however, well, guess what? I won't be hosting it, but someone else will be in your generation so you can relate and communicate. So let's go to this commercial break.
For Tyrell Goodman, childhood and adulthood were not always glamour. Depression, lack of love from family, mistreatment, loneliness, suicidal ideal, fear, betrayal, nightmares from combat, and mental abuse colored his days and haunted his nights. But through self-discipline, determination, mental toughness, hard work through biblical counseling, and keeping his faith in God that was taught by his grandparents, Goodman transformed himself from a depressed and suicidal young man with no hope nor future in one of the world's top endurances, known as life, the only man in history whose true mission to inspire others. So they don't be bitter, be better, and execute. In their daily life, help others in this human race. In Off the Path, he shares his astonishing life story and reveals that most of us face various personal battles internally and as if there is no way out. Goodman's inspiration of no-hold-bar mentality and no more excuses to push past the storm of life, eliminate self-doubt and negative people, accepting and build self-love, and develop a relationship with God. To be able to reach their full potential as it is meant to be. Ideal motivation for anyone looking to open their hearts and give more of themselves to the world. Available now. Get your copy today.
All right, we're back to In the Trenches, and I am, the J, the ASSIEM, Jasim, and I am in my wonderful, wonderful location of spending some QT with my oldest daughter. So guess what? If you don't know what I forgot, for those that's watching and listening, you know what QT means, quality time, if you're kind of slow and you ain't from the South. So, therefore you can understand that a little bit better. So, that's a Southern black lingo. Okay.
Yep.
So, but we were talking about the parent-friend trap and why you shouldn't try to be your child's best friend. And so we hit a whole lot of good topics, a lot of issues, and you came at the end with a very good point on what and how we need or should be done. Now, before I say anything else, my other question to you, can it really, really, really happen, being realistic, where parents can change the direction or the course with their child to no longer be the parent-child?
I believe so, but only the few that actually want to make that actions and choose to do so. I'm picking back on what I said, like we can provide all the information, podcasts, organizations, and all that and much more. but those who want to make a change in their life and their household will do so. They will notice it, and they'll be like, okay, it's time to make some adjustments. I don't like what's going on. I don't like the family dynamics of what's going on in the house. So I don't like how my child is, disrespectful, or the performance, or the lack of drive and all that much more. They will make a change. And of course, you're going to have those that just want to be stuck in their old ways. But for the very few that we do impact and actually make those change, I still think that's still a win. Because instead of doing nothing, we're still making those changes slowly and for surely over time. And that's why I said, as much as I hate to, face the reality of it, it's just going to be a slow change. And it's only by us keep doing this and keep pushing it over and over again, you will see it change over time. It's like no different from, and I'm using this metaphor, when you start a garden. You got to start with a single seed. You're not going to have this lush, fantastic garden overnight. You got to pretty much take time. You got to put the nutrients and much more into the ground. It's just, I'm using this metaphorically for your child. You got to do what you need to do, provide the guidance, provide the love, the tough love, and all that much. And through the seasons, through
all sample,
yeah, all that. And over in due time, things will blossom, and then new seeds will come into be planted. You continue the same thing over and over again, and over time, you'll have this wonderful garden. But that's
I concur. I agree with you. But once again, as always, I want to thank you for coming on. But also make sure you let the listeners and the watchers know how they can reach you on your podcast.
So you can find, let's start the website, soulproduction.biz. That's where you find majority of my stuff there, including the podcast. The podcast that I love to push the most is Next Level Thinking with an exclamation mark. And then if you want to find those other podcasts on my website, all the other social media platforms, the letter at C, my first initial on my first name, then Holmes, as you can see on the header beneath my name. And then if you want to find me on Facebook, just at Soul Productions. And that's how you can find me through there. So soulproduction.biz or at C Holmes. Or if you want to find this podcast, which is on multiple platforms from YouTube, Spotify, and much more, Next Level Think with an exclamation mark.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to close out. And before I close out, I'm going to close out with one last comment that a watcher has. And then as I close out, I'm going to say, don't be bitter, be better. And then guess what? You execute. This is your boy, the J, the ASSIEM. And of course, Chris.
Hey.
And of course, we had Baker. Once again, check us out on the next episode. Peace out.
You've been listening to In the Trenches. Real, raw, plain speak without all the political correctness. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, reach out to TS&F Consultant and Management on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So long for now from In the Trenches.